the closed doors age with me. In the 40s, when that revelation came to you, what did it do to you as you are now exposed to the memory of that when it hit you? What did you do and how did you handle it?
Yeah, so I had come back from Zambia, and for like over a decade, I ran an advocacy organization to put pressure on the governments to commit to the multi-billion-dollar investments and make sure the money was being used in the best possible way to have the greatest impact, to save lives and care for children that were left behind. During that time, I was an effective advocate as part of a broad ecosystem of actors and players. And over the years, I was a really angry advocate. And I got to a place where the anger was kind of eating me up inside. And then I kind of convinced my board, I need a break. I need to go on a sabbatical. And I took a sabbatical and I took a break. And I think I had reached a point in my life of I had succeeded in some ways and I had a family and, externally everything looked great. I was having a public policy impact, but inside I was miserable and angry. And I realized that dissonance was not sustainable. So I went and took a sabbatical, went into a deep dive review. These memories came back and it was shattering. I was completely shattered. I was like, all the stories that I had about my life were completely destroyed. And then I confronted my father, actually. He was living at the time, and he, of course, denied it and thought I was crazy and all that. And his reaction just affirmed my memories. And I talked to lots of different people, and, I had a lot of doubt and confusion, like, is it real? Is it not real? And I went through that for a long time. And then I just, I did my own epidemiological investigation, and, it just made everything make sense. And it just clarified everything. And as I said, I got a lot of support, and I made a commitment that I would do whatever I can to protect other children at that time. So I have been living into that at work. I work actively on that issue now, and I'm, been involved as a survivor. I think male survivors stepping up and speaking out is important. It's probably 25% of the population. 1 out of 3 girls, 1 out of 5, or maybe even more boys. It's so clouded in secrecy. And I'm not saying everyone has to speak out like I do. I mean, that's just I do. But I do think I just do want to invite people that might have memories or might have had some experience, even if you don't remember all the details or even if you don't want to go there. It's also like an opportunity to take a stand for your children, your grandchildren, and children around you so that they don't have to go through that. That's what I found for myself, and there's evidence from experts that advocacy is a healing modality. And then I also really had to follow my heart, which was that I had been doing HIV/AIDS and advocacy for like 15 years, and I was really I had learned a lot about how to be an advocate. So I wanted to work on other issue areas. So I started working on the climate emergency. I've worked on racial equity in the United States, and I've worked on authentic democracy and sustainable development goals like social, economic, and environmental justice. So a broader range of topics. So I think for the past 10 years, at least 10 or 15 years, I've been, still working on global health to a lesser extent and taking on these other issue areas as a greater extent.
Yeah, that is powerful information that you talked about as far as how you came about and what you did, because there are lots of men out there, Doc, that are in similar situation, and anger is one of the things that they deal with. Shame is another, great shame as a man and how society relates to that. And I want those men that are listening that have experienced some of these things. We have someone that I'm going to provide Doc's information so you have access to him, the books and everything, so that you can reach out and begin to get some type of healing within the self, because it's important as you heal you'll be able to heal much of your relationships outside, meaning your family, as Doc had stated. It's first you, then your family, then your community, and then the world. And that's also based on your healing. As he begins to tell us his story, that's the progression that he handled in his life and how he changed and so forth. So, Doc, you've gotten this, and I want you to go in because I know you have another timeline, and to talk a little about your book And then what I want you to do is the 7 steps of living a love-centered activist life. Talk about a little about that, but I want you to some of the movements that you have coming up. And I see in the back of you here clemency, here a emergency, human rights, no, not hate. And there's a date that I can read, April 25th. I think it's 20. Was it? Did it pass last year? So talk to them about stuff like that you have coming, because I want to point them to it and make them aware, the audience aware of some of the other things that you're doing on the outside in the field that they can have access to and even be a part of.
Yeah. So as you said in the beginning, like I am a human, and there are times where I get hopeless and despairing. And the state of the climate emergency, for example, the collapsing of our pseudo-democracy, the rise of fascism in the United States and around the world, the lack of, the betrayal of our government basically to fulfill on its intent of, ensuring our well-being. And I knew that 2024 was going to be a wild ride. I anticipated that. So back in 2022, I started working on revolutionary optimism, and I created it, it with 7 steps as a journey and with practices, and I call them RXs or prescriptions. I use my doctor role, and I offer stories of people and my own stories and share wisdom and best practices from the literature. Most importantly, I have practices. It's the book is like a compilation of the best practices on living as a love-centered activist, and 23 practices in total. And I felt like this is a love offering for me to whoever reads it, because it's the kind of book I wish I had when I was 15 or 20 or 30 or 40, 50. Even at 60, I would have ran for a book like this, because it helps me maintain my revolutionary optimism in the face of circumstances. And it's working. It works on me. I am doing these practices. I went to Israel, Palestine last week on a pilgrimage to look for peaceful solutions. And boy, it was a real stress test on myself and on revolutionary optimism. And I came out of it and I found there is a way, there are people, there is movements afoot to really bring forward a peaceful resolution, peaceful coexistence. But I had to use all the practices in my book. And while I was there, it was when the massive explosion of campus encampments that are supporting the Palestinian liberation movement is emerging, and climate activism is emerging. So I believe that we're going through a passage as humanity, and it's going to be a rough ride. And we're at a crossroads. We have to decide whether we want to continue down the path that we're on now, which is extractive capitalism and oppression of one group of another based on race and other things like that. And that's leading us to great suffering, and ultimately it will lead to destruction, possibly including our self-destruction as a species. Or, this is where I'm aiming, is that we can, heal and repair and transform ourselves as humanity, so that we can have a path of justice and repair and peace. And we have to do it now, actually. We don't have more time to wait. So revolutionary optimism, the 7 steps, the real underlying part of it is really like the first 3 steps are about self-liberation. The stuff that you were talking about, finding your purpose, trusting your intuition, connecting with the great mystery to inspire you and to help see the interconnectedness of everything and everyone. And then step 4 is the heart of the book. It's the bridge in the book. It's called peace crafting. And it's about like, how do we relate to other people? And it's like the space between you and me right now, and me and your listeners. I'm using peace crafting as I'm doing that. And it's about, and I can go into the details of that. Then steps 5, 6, and 7 are really about our collective liberation. It's interrelated to our self-liberation, that journey that we're on. And the more that we make progress on that with ourselves and with others, then this collective liberation becomes more possible. And it talks about imagineering, having a vision, radical imagination, unlocking our visions, and then manifesting them through movements. And then step 6 is sparking peaceful revolutions. I definitely believe we're in a phase of violent revolution. If you look at the news or what's happening on our streets or the wars going around the world and the threats that we're facing, that's already happening. And there is a peaceful revolution already happening, but a lot of us that are in that are in our little silos and we're not connected. We think we're alone. We're not using our full, we're feeling hopeless and despairing. So I'm really going for all of us that are already there to like recognize that we're doing great things. Every love-centered action counts. People are frequently hypercritical of themselves, like they're guilty, they're not doing enough, or they don't think what they're doing is having an impact. I hear this all the time. It's like, wow, what you're doing is super amazing. You're serving in the way that you choose, and that is it. You're it. That's part of what we're advocating for. And then the last step is on unifying within, like unifying that inner soul's purpose with how you create your life. And that's an onward journey. That's a constant thing that evolves. And also unifying collectively. How do we see each other interspiritually? How do we see each other interracially, interpartisanly? Let's break down the walls, these silos that aren't real. We're all really aiming for the same thing. We all are yearning for love, peace, and freedom. And we're not experiencing that. And we can recreate everything so that our world is operating with love at the center of our social, economic, and political systems. That's my ultimate goal.
I suggest that all of you guys are listening. It's a beautiful gift to buy for teenagers, college students, and all you rebels out there. We look at the streets in the news today and you see the college campuses aflame with hatred and anger and all of that stuff. And this is a great tool to be able to offer someone as a gift to read and get some insights as to how to bring about another approach to their current situation. And so I suggest that you guys step out and begin to purchase Doc's book and hand them out to all those kids out there that are searching and in pain and want to become this revolutionary optimist, if you will, and give them some insight from one who has been in the dance and has learned a few things. So I know, Doc, you have to run, but I want to thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. I want to one day drag you back so we can get some more, because I know you have a wealth of information that is residing within that being of you. And so we would love to have you come back one day, but I want to thank you so much for coming and visiting us here at Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much. Great to have you. Happy to come back. Just reach out to
Thanks.
me.
No.
Yeah.
Excellent.